Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 23 of On the Flank. I'm one of your hosts, John George, alongside Joe Kirkpatrick. Say hello, Joe.
Hey, everybody.
And Joe, this is a big episode number 23, and we are so close to that first week of Overwatch League. I think we got this episode, and then we'll be doing 2 more episodes, and then it starts.
It's true. 14 days from today, really.
Yeah,
'Cause
actually,
it's Thursday.
it is 2 weeks from today. We'll usually have this week's a Thursday episode just because I had more free time on a Thursday, and we just decided to push it back a little bit. They'll usually come out on Tuesdays, so we'll have one the Tuesday. Our big preview episode is going to come out the Tuesday before the first week of 2019.
The 12th.
Yes. So it should be Tuesdays from here on out, a set schedule. I know we've been all over the place during the off season. That's mainly because there weren't really any games. I didn't have a job yet. So we were more all over the place. I think we're going to be basically set on Tuesdays once that season starts at this point. But besides that, let's just jump right into the news. A bunch of the news came today, which is fantastic that we pushed it back.
Yeah.
Recording. But the first piece of news we're going to be talking about is the 2019 All Access Pass, which just got released this afternoon. The 2018 All Access Pass is officially dead. You can no longer buy that anymore. That ended last night, I believe, or midnight. And today, 2019 comes out right away. And Joe, you get a lot. It's half the price it was in 2018. It's only $15. You get, if you're a Twitch Prime member, you get 500 bits, which is worth like $5, I think. You get 200 Overwatch League tokens, which is worth $10, and then you get 20% off all Overwatch League merch, which is fantastic. And then, of course, you get a unique viewing system, the Command Center, which has been updated, upgraded in every single way possible because you're no longer stuck to their terrible Command Center that they made themselves. You can make your own little Command Center out of any player's point of view, the mainstream, the map even, which is just fantastic. It's way more interactive. It's customizable. Joe, are you as hype as me for this? I know both of us were already on the Overwatch League Twitch page and stuff hasn't even started. There are people chatting like crazy there. This is pretty exciting, right?
Yeah, this is going to be really good. I sort of cynically think maybe this is their way of trying to make up for not having something like the Overwatch World Cup viewer right here immediately at launch for Overwatch League Season 2. But yeah, to have to be able to assemble your own, POV shots whenever you need. I imagine the traditional stream camera there as well. But that's going to be super cool because then I imagine you'll be able to go back, and look at that in the same way you might have done with the Overwatch World Cup viewer that they had. So yeah, that's really cool right there. It's got the same name as last year, but it's a very different product that they're giving us here in the Command Center. And then, yeah, other than that, notably, there aren't any, so far yet at least, any in-game rewards for the All Access Pass, except for the 200 Overwatch League tokens for 2 skins, home and away each, that you can get. But there aren't any, like the gray and gold Overwatch League skins. But those may be coming throughout last season. They added a bunch of stuff. Yeah, you can pick one of the 20 teams, and they give you a unique set of emotes there for them, as well as being able to cheer and get other emotes like last year. New this year, they've got a set of they call them challenges. They're on the bottom of the Twitch page, like where the loot drops were. Last season, they have personal challenges and community challenges, which evidently are both going to come in stages as the season goes on. The personal challenges, there's actually uh, three for every week of every stage. But so basically, lots of them so far are for cheering bits, or for from the first week it says watch any one match in Command Center, or connect your Blizzard account, which in theory you would have done already. So yeah, not super difficult to earn yourself some more Twitch emotes there. Um, some of the group challenges are cheer a certain amount of 40 million bits is the first community challenge. 40,000 mega cheers, which is like what 250, 300 bits at once or something, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
something like that.
Interestingly, one of the other ones is to gift 10,000 all access passes through Twitch chat, or through Twitch, and that's one of the community challenges. So, like we said, when this launched earlier today, chat is full already of people, sitting around, uh, waiting to receive gifted all access passes. But I wonder, is there a way to figure out how many people are in chat right now? I don't think there is, because
No.
there's not something it's not a live broadcast, so that it doesn't say how many people are watching. But
Yeah, it's a lot. I'm scrolling through like the user list right now, and man, it's a lot of people. Maybe
oh yeah,
more
there you
than maybe more than you'll maybe more than the opening night will get.
go. Yeah, I'll have to see. I mean, there's gonna be some good matches opening night, so we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, I mean, I wish we could tell how many people were in here right now, but it's a good amount. If you just scroll through the list, it takes a while to scroll through that thing. Yeah, this is. I mean, overall, it just seems like they want everybody to have this. Honestly, like they're going with the gifts. They're going with all this new stuff, making it cheaper. I mean, just having an achievement there that's like, hey, why don't you gift people the same thing you have right here?
Yeah, and just like last time when we mentioned the All Access Pass, we're not sponsored by Twitch, though we wouldn't mind it, I'm sure. But yeah, no, I also would agree that it's definitely something you want to pick up. If you're a listener to this show,
Hello.
presumably you're going to be watching your fair share of Overwatch League here in the coming months. So yeah, this is definitely worth it for you, I think. And
Yeah,
presumably they'll just only be adding stuff as the season goes on.
yeah. You can only assume that. Maybe some more free skins. I'm not the biggest fan of the generic Overwatch League skins, but they did give us a bunch of home skins, away skins, which was fantastic. Probably some more of that this year. But yeah, world is so. Is it confirmed that World Cup viewer is not happening at the beginning at least, or
I
has there
imagine they
been
would have
any
told
word on it?
us by then, or
Yeah,
by now. I mean, we're 2 weeks out.
yeah. I'd imagine. I feel like at some point it'll happen because the World Cup viewer wasn't like there were bugs, but it wasn't like that buggy to the point where I'd be like, ah, nah, this isn't until like next year. So I assume it'll come at some point.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I would think so.
But either way, I'm not too upset because we have this. This is nice. This is the way I'm gonna watch it live anyway until they're able to add commentator's voice and all that stuff into the World Cup viewer type thing. Anything else to say about the 2019 All Access Pass, Joe? It's fantastic, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, I'm a good fan.
Yeah. And we aren't even sponsored by them yet.
Exactly.
So the other big news that dropped today is the
Speaking of not being
merch.
sponsored, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. The merch, sponsored by Fanatics, and the new merch is up. You got all your teams here. It's pretty similar to last year's merch overall, except this time you're getting that personalized jersey on the first week already. Last year you had to. I think we waited like a little bit, maybe 3 or 4 weeks before they added jerseys with players' names on the back of them. So now you get that here. You get home, you get away jerseys, you get it all here. Um, and then you got just shirts, you got some hoodies, some long sleeves. You have these new like coolly designed long sleeve shirts and short sleeve shirts that are all sort of they're cool. They're related to like the location and stuff like that. They're nice and personalized. And then you also for each team have autograph stuff, autographed jerseys, autographed pictures. An autographed jersey will cost you $100, and an autographed picture will cost you $50. But there are some hilarious autographs in here. I personally really like the Prophet one is hilarious. Gaguri's is very cool too. I think she drew a frog at the end of her signature, so that's fantastic.
Yeah,
But
and
yeah,
it's notable that not all of the teams, or not all of the players on every team have autographed things there in the shop
yeah,
yet, but that might be, coming in the future. We don't know.
yeah. It's mainly just like the like player you reckon, like it's sure for the Gladiators and all. It's like it's the most popular player basically because their signature is worth the most apparently. But yeah, you got all the new teams. I think I'm gonna probably use my 20% off to get a Vancouver Titans jersey. I need one of those, and maybe a Gladiators jersey as well. So I'm excited overall, Joe. What do you anything else you noticed on the shop? I mean, it's very similar to last year, just on a new website. It seems like I had free shipping until Friday is the other thing, I guess.
It's true, yeah. And you won't miss that if you go to the site. They'll remind you for sure. Uh, yeah, no, there's lots of room to grow into stuff too. I mean, like you said, sort of a basic array of things now. They've combined like what they had it into the AM with the named jerseys, and also the like Blizzard store stuff that was there last year. It's all combined into one space, which is nice.
Yeah.
Um, doesn't actually now that I see this, it doesn't look like you can customize your own though anymore. You can't put whatever name you want.
Ooh,
So
it's a
you
big
missed
one.
that,
I
but
never do that. I never do that, but I know there are people that do. So it's sad for those people.
you'll have to raise an outcry, and then maybe they'll add that back.
Yeah, I'm sure they will in some way, in some form later on in the season. I'm just noting the Atlanta Rain jerseys have like black numbers on them, and it looks kind of disgusting to me. Um, don't know why I just I just decided to say that.
Ooh,
You could
the
it
home jersey or the home jerseys.
yeah, the home jerseys. Yeah, looks kind of weird. Um, but besides that, I like everyone. I don't think there's too many jerseys I dislike besides the usual culprits, the old bright yellow Mayhem jerseys. I really like the Guangzhou jerseys. I know you mentioned being a fan of their colors, Joe. I really like those jerseys. Those jerseys are slick.
Yeah, I like it when it's orange, and not when it's or wait. No, it's the other way around. Whatever. But yes, the jerseys look good. I agree. It looks
Yeah,
like
I don't.
looks like they might have coaches too.
Oh, really?
I mean, because Gary, like for Chengdu, for example, it's not a
Gary.
player.
Yeah.
Or
Let me
maybe
check. What other coaches do I know here? Cool, Matt Bonnie. Yeah, maybe just some. I know
because
some coaches had it last year. I don't know if they're doing the same thing this year. I know like you could definitely buy coaches ones. I remember that. Um,
maybe I'm going crazy. I don't know.
I don't see Harsha on like Titans or anything else. But well, I don't know. This is just it's cool. It's cool that we have stuff back. It's cool that we have new the new team's gear and we can see what they look like.
J.K. Gary is just a player that I didn't remember.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But they definitely had coaches last year. I remember that. Um But yeah, anything you're gonna make a purchase on, Joe?
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, it's still kind of expensive.
It is
Um,
it is pretty expensive.
all the jerseys with names are 85 US dollars, and without it's 60. And then
Yeah,
plus some of the other shirts and stuff. But
I don't think it's a bad choice to go no name.
yeah,
I don't think it's a bad choice at all. It looks the jersey kind of looks different on. It looks like the sleeve is like dotted, like it looks like like you could air it out. It kind of looks like a sports jersey if I zoom into this thing, which it's definitely different from last year, maybe.
yeah.
But besides that, I think people were saying on the subreddit that the jerseys on here are different from the ones that the players were wearing. Is that right?
Not that I've noticed so far. I mean, the Philly ones are black. That's new.
Yeah, apparently there was like very subtle differences that I was
Oh,
like
yeah.
the color, the shades were a bit different or something like that.
I don't know about subtle differences.
Yeah. I don't mind it too much if there is any subtle differences. But God, yes, this Guangzhou Charge. I'm not. I don't even think I'm going to be a fan of Guangzhou Charge, but their jerseys, they're so beautiful. I love these colors. Anything else? We're just like I'm just like fawning over all the colors again. We should probably move on unless you got anything else, Joe.
This is making for some great audio. This is.
Yeah, just you could hear me salivating. So let's get on to like player news. Mangachu, the person everyone was upset, unfortunately had to be kicked off XL2 along with every single other person because of the new direction they're going in. He's found a home immediately, which is fantastic. Mayhem Academy, a great pickup for Mayhem Academy, who is sort of middle of the pack or terrible usually in contenders so far. So that is a fantastic pickup. Of course, if you don't know Mangachu, he was on Canada World Cup team. He has not been an owl yet, but a lot of people think he has the talent to do so. You happy about this, Joe? You happy he's got a home already?
Yeah, yeah, it's good. That's why I threw it on the rundown here. Yeah, just because it's worth mentioning.
Oh yeah.
The tweet that says this guy comes running at you with his Torb hammer. What do? You sign it. So
You absolutely sign him. Yeah, that's pretty big. And then Philadelphia Fusion, your team, signed Christopher as an assistant coach. He was playing on the UK World Cup team in the group stages, and then he got replaced by Fusions, of course, in the end. But he's no longer a player; he's coaching. Joe, as a Fusion fan, are you excited about this? Do you see potential in this man as a coach?
yeah, I mean, I think so. That's like he made it was a deliberate choice, like Neptuno had done, or no, I guess that was even before group stages that Neptuno stepped down. But it was a deliberate choice of his to step down out of the team, and then Fusions to come in because he wanted to get into coaching. So he's been LFT for a handful of months, but now he's here with Philly with Coach Hayes, um, who I think also actually was, now that I think about it, with Team UK. So that might be where um, some of that connection actually comes in. But I mean, yeah, that'll be cool for them. That's the announcements seemed excited. So
Yeah, I'd be excited. Philadelphia, they've got a lot to live up to. They've got to bolster up with anybody they can at this point. I mean, you gotta hope that he's not going to hurt the team. And everyone's just like, it's his fault that we're doing poorly. You really got to hope that. But I doubt as an assistant coach, I doubt you can hurt the team that much unless you're very toxic and ruining the starting lineup or something like that. But yeah, very nice to see some more pickups. I mean, we're getting close to the season. We're still seeing some free agent stuff. We're still seeing some coaching pickups, which is it's nice. The teams are always out there looking for new talent to pick up. So as far as patches go, Joe, the patch man. Give us an update on how the patches are going. We got 1.32, 1.33 action. So 1.32 went live, correct?
Yeah, so it's been like 10 days since we've done, excuse me, since we did our last show.
Yes.
Cough. Sorry. But yeah, so it's been a few days since we did our last show, but in that time period, yes, patch 1.32 went live. This is the patch that Overwatch League Stage 1 is going to be played on. This is the one that changed, this is the nerf to armor, nerf to Brigida's rally, as well as D.Va's defense matrix, and brought that Reaper buff. So again, that's live. That's been live for about a week now. But notably, yeah. So yesterday, yesterday afternoon, evening, the PTR was updated. Then since there hadn't been a PTR patch there for a few days, to 1.33, which sort of came out of nowhere. Just that we weren't really expecting anything, but all of a sudden we have a new 2CP map. This is Paris, an elegant city of art and romance, is how the patch notes describe it here. So there's a couple points. You know, it's themed sort of evening, or like late afternoon maybe, in Paris, and so you got some fights in the streets, and then the first point, there's a big sort of gap into presumably the Seine. Yeah, actually, that's what that description says. So like, there's a water hazard there, but you can see the Eiffel Tower off in the distance. So that's kind of cool. And then up onto second point, which is inside sort of a some kind of mansion, which is cool. Notably about second point Paris, is that I think we talked a little bit about this when Busan came out. That like Busan Sanctuary is one of the smallest points in the game in terms of like physical size, but I think Paris second is one of the largest points now in the game. It's just physically, it's got lots of space there, but and it's also cool because there's lots of ways to come at it. Unlike, you know, say Hanamura B, there's like 3 paths you can take. But yeah, Paris B is going to be really interesting to watch. Presumably we won't see it until at least stage 2 of the Overwatch League, but you should go check it out. There's lots of Omnic designs and stuff going around.
Yeah, I'm excited to check it out. I'm downloading the PTR patch right now as we record this episode, so I can.
There we go.
Yeah.
Then lots of bug fixes and stuff. But the other big change that isn't bug fixes is they change some of the priority of the way health and shields and armor stack up. So if we can think about, you know, the way Overwatch has sort of looked since the release of Brigida, that sometimes you'll end up with situations, especially if you're running a brig with a Zarya or a brig with Zenyatta, that they're left with rally armor that sits under their shields, and so that it can be a lot harder to try to get that armor off of them because the shields can regenerate, and you have to go down through all the shields before you can start chipping away at the armor. And so, you know, you'd have a 325 HP Zenyatta with, you know, 75 points of armor that couldn't hardly be touched. But this patch 1.33, again live on the PTR right now, has changed up the order. So they refer to recoverable and non-recoverable health, shields, and armor. So whereas on the live server and previous patches, the order of priority on a health bar would be non-recoverable shields. This is something like Lucio's Sound Barrier. Recoverable shields, which is something like the Zenyatta's shields or Zarya's shields or Symmetra. Non-recoverable armor, which is like Brigida armor, Rally armor. Recoverable armor, such as is in like the health pools of D.Va or Reinhardt. Non-recoverable health, which currently doesn't really exist, and recoverable health, and that was the the order that that would line up. But now on this PTR patch, it goes non-recoverable shields, armor, and health, and then recoverable shields, armor, and health. Um, and essentially, what that means is that the extra stuff goes on top now instead of within the hero's base health and armor and shields pool to make it a little bit more exposed. Uh, and this actually can be, a really big change. We saw this nerf to armor come in on what is now the live patch, and this is essentially another nerf to armor, but specifically armor that's given out. And of course, there's exactly one hero in the game that can give armor. So yes, this is the eighth consecutive nerf to Brigitte, or what I want to look up that number at some point, but um, this is another essentially nerf to Brigitte, and the way that her armor works.
Yeah.
Um, so as Stylosa went so far as to say that she's probably garbage tier now. I don't know if that's the case, but those were the words he used.
Wow.
We'll have to see, but it is really significant
Yeah, it is.
to have that armor just be a lot more exposed again, particularly on Zenyatta, um,
Oh yeah. I
and
mean,
Zarya to another extent. But
that's
um,
like one of the main reasons. Like, I feel like that's one of the main reasons Zen Brig is so strong, and Brig still played like crazy. Is because that Zen, especially if you have someone like Jonak or it's a really good Zen, if he's constantly got that much health, it's pretty hard to kill him. So I totally I agree with that. I don't know if garbage tier is the correct
seemed a little
tier.
harsh.
Yeah, especially since Brig has been like S tier, like the best character in this game, ever since she was released. So it's crazy to call her garbage tier right after like this nerf, which isn't even. I mean, it is specifically for her, but Blizzard doesn't even mention it specifically for her.
Yeah, and the other significant thing about this is at least the existence of uh, this thing called non-recoverable health, which again doesn't really exist in the game, um, but it might come along maybe in the future. If this is a system that they've set up, in terms of maybe a hero that can overheal, or preemptively heal, kind of like Brigitte's armor pack does with giving armor, but with like regular health instead.
Yeah, you're just
We'll
maybe
just
a
have to
character
see.
that just gives health, doesn't give a shield or armor,
Yeah,
gives people health or something like that. Or like you're saying, just a character that has that ability somehow.
the structure is
Uh,
there at least.
yeah, it can happen now if they would like to do it. But yeah, interesting PTR patch. Can't wait to look at Paris, and that is a very significant change. It may seem small, but it is very significant that um, that armor is getting a little bit more nerfed here once again. But that's all we got for the news. We've got a good amount of topics today to talk about alongside our season two preview, which is continuing this week. We're so close to the end, Joe. Only 4 teams left to preview. We'll do 2 more this week. But before that, there was a little article buzzing around the esports realm this week. The NCAA, which is the college sports organization, collegiate sports organization that runs all the big sporting events, of course, college football, college basketball, all that stuff. They were sort of asked about esports because, of course, everyone is looking towards college esports. We've got professional esports, but the college scene doesn't have one official organization organizing all of colleges together to do esports. And the NCAA came out and they said that they won't support violent esports as they won't change their values. And these violent esports titles include Counter Strike, Dota 2, League of Legends, and Overwatch. Very surprised that Dota 2 and League of Legends are on that. Overwatch and Counter Strike a little bit more understandable since you are you have guns and you're killing people. There are guns in Dota 2 and League of Legends, but you got to remember it's like eagle eyes view of this map, and all you can really see are like is like magic and beams and all this light going at each other, was weird to me. League of Legends and Dota 2 are very cartoony in my eyes, and I don't find them violent at all. There's no like blood or anything. Same with Overwatch. There's no like blood. It's not too violent, but Counter Strike has that stuff. Um, so those are the specific games NCAA has problems with, but I think this is hilarious, because everyone's pointing out the irony in the fact that the NCAA treats their football players terribly, and that is a lot more violent, a lot more physically violent, and can actually hurt people, compared to esports, in which nobody is actually physically hurting each other. Joe, you're still part of Butler Esports. I am no longer, but as a Butler Esports guy, does this upset you? Are you? Is it? I mean, it's kind of BS, right?
Yeah, it's certainly super interesting. I do want to point out, maybe um, to resolve your question there about Dota 2, League of Legends. That at least this article, sort of lists those as the examples that it comes up with for what might be violent esports titles.
Mm.
As far as I can see, the NCAA itself never actually specifically mentioned them for what that's
Okay.
worth. But yeah, they do quote here the president of the NCAA saying here that he says, "Is esports athletics? We need to lead that debate. Can the NCAA address concerns around esports? It's hugely gender biased. A lot of the content contains violence. There are health and wellness issues. So that may present an opportunity to better align NCAA values with the games. We won't change our values to fit a game." And so yeah, it's some of that. There is merit to. I'm not gonna disagree that esports and video gaming in general is hugely gender biased. Um, but yeah, even just the little bits about there's health and wellness issues to playing video games because everybody who plays video games is out of shape and never takes care of themselves and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's uh, clearly there are lots of things that can be done at the collegiate level and are being done. Again, this article, talks about the Ivy League schools have come up with their own esports conference independently from that conference administration. Big Ten and the Peach Belt conferences have actually sponsored their own um, intercollegiate leagues, as does the Big East, which Butler is a part of, um, in both Rocket League and League of Legends now. Um, but lots of schools are interested in it. Lots of conferences are interested in it, and I think again talking about the way that people don't like the NCAA. The one thing that's consistent with them, it seems like, is that they like to be able to get money out of the things that are going on at the collegiate level, and there's lots of money in collegiate esports. Whether it's a reality or not yet is a different thing, but it's definitely on its way. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
I think this is definitely not the last we're going to hear about this from the
Yeah.
NCAA. It's just a matter of
Uh,
seeing what
I
happens.
I could easily see them changing their values if dollar signs are involved. Um, that's just the NCAA for you. But even people like the Big East doesn't want to do Overwatch. I remember because of it's a violent video game. So they're all sort of hesitant, and it's weird that it's specifically like the college ones that are just like kind of hesitant because of violent video games. When you've got things like the Overwatch League, and Counter Strike is just one of the most viewed esports in general. So it's crazy that they don't see like Overwatch and Counter Strike, two of the most popular esports games. Um, they think, oh, it's not worth it because there's violence involved. Um, it's super interesting. I definitely think I agree with you. This is not the last we're going to be hearing from NCAA. about any of this. And if there's a high demand for Overwatch and Counter Strike college esports, I think NCAA will change their mind about that, for sure, because they are money hungry. They are very money hungry. Yeah. Overall, I just thought this was an interesting thing to bring up, especially since we're both part of Butler Esports in some way. Um, I mean, as someone still part of the club, do you are you? I mean, would you eventually want it to go to NCAA and for it to have a similar system to college sports right now, or are you okay with like all these just independent, like the Big East, just running everything for Butler?
It's sort of interesting because the way that esports, is constructed, that um, there are already um, corporations and organizations that literally own the games,
Yeah.
which is different than something like football or basketball, which there is the NFL, there is the NBA, but there's um, they don't have the complete and total interest in the game that exists the way that, for example, Blizzard does over Overwatch. Um, and so in that way, there's lots of um, disjointedness kind of in some of these collegiate and semi-professional or not professional esports scenes, um, that I think that could definitely benefit from some sort of some sort of unifying force there. But then again, that there is comes up with concerns again about being cognizant of of the players and what they need, and how they can be um, nurtured and helped along, because like we see really top collegiate teams doing really well in like open division. I don't think any have made it into contenders yet, but like I think of Maryville University, who made like top 10, I think, in a open division this season. Um, and just stuff like that, that the closer and closer they get to like professional level, it's going to be more and more important to have something there.
Yeah. And also, just the closer, and once we get to older people, and by older I mean like up to like 30, like 25 to 30-year olds. Like once we get, like right now, the main professional esports player is like on average about like 18 years old, which is when you go to college usually. But right now, instead of going to college, all these people are just going to the pros, right? So um, I think it'll also take the norm, or these players growing up and still, it's happening in League of Legends right now. A bunch of the good players that came in the league when they were like 18, 19, they're like 24, 25 now, and they're still in the league and they're still doing super well. They're still the best choices for their teams. So once, it's just because it's just starting that everyone's so young. Like once people in Overwatch League are getting older, but they're still good enough to be in the league, that's when you start having these colleges pop up as a funneling system into the league, because the teams are, maybe going to want these older, more experienced players more than the younger players once we get to it. I think it's going to take that. Um, it's also going to take, like you're saying, right now, like you're saying with Blizzard owning Overwatch, Riot owns League of Legends, and it seems like that is the way to go. If you're an Overwatch and you player and you're at a college, you go to TESPA. That's Blizzard's organizer. If you are a League of Legends player, you go to ULOL, which is Riot's organizer. Um, you just go to where it's like it's Blizzard's choice. If Blizzard doesn't want NCAA to succeed, then they can just make it so they don't. That it's their game. If they would rather TESPA be the one, they can prevent NCAA, Big East, anyone from playing Overwatch. That's the big difference between esports and sports. Yeah, you're right. you're right there, Joe. So, well, even if NCAA wants to be the organization, they might not have a choice. But I'm sure if there's money involved, things can happen.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else on this topic, Joe?
Uh, yeah, I don't think so.
Before, yeah, I mean,
That's what we got.
lots to talk about. And then now we move on to a nice little topic that I thought would be fun to talk about. They always talk about betting odds on sports shows, so I got excited at the idea of doing it myself on our own podcast show. The odds to win Overwatch League 2019 came out on Bovada, which is a betting site, a sports betting site. And basically, New York Excelsior, the favorites to win at plus 250. How the odds work, by the way, is if since the Excelsior is plus 250, if you were to bet $1 on the Excelsior, you would win $2.50. So the least favored Justice, the Washington Justice, and the Chengdu Hunters way down there at plus 10,000. So if you bet $1 on them, you'll win $100. So it might be worth just dropping a little coin there on. I mean, it's upset worthy. If you were to make a nice little, like, you could easily bet on Spitfire Excelsior, Joe, right? And you would be confident with your pick. But if you wanted to make the most money possible by betting the smallest amount and legitimately, like, you have a chance to win, who do you think you go with here on this list, Joe? I can start us off if you need some time to think. I gave you this question last second.
Yeah, no, you go first, I think.
Okay. All right. I've been telling a couple of my friends are big into sports betting, and they asked me about this since I'm the only one that knows about esports. I've said it on this podcast so many times, but I've been saying Gladiators, and Gladiators are at plus 1,000 right now, which is tied with Dynasty for like the fifth best odds to win. I think that's a good bet right there. I told them, like, it could be anybody. I think last year it could be anybody. This year it could be again. I mean, you have the Excelsior, who we know, I think everyone agrees, has the best roster, but they choke in the playoffs every time. You have Spitfire, who they kind of have a rough. They're super inconsistent, and they just happen to be super on just the upturn right there at the end there to win it all. And then you have Fusion in third at plus 600, who got second last year, and they were also super inconsistent. So right off the bat, with the top three, you have three inconsistent teams, and I feel like that's a good sign that you could take many of these, like, anybody. It feels like anybody could win this, which is what I love about Overwatch League. But I go Gladiators, just because, I mean, that's not confirming they're number one in my power rankings or anything, just because that's the best.
If you wanted to make a risky bet,
if you wanted to make
a slightly less risky bet,
a slightly less risky bet that I think has a chance of winning. If you want to make the most money for something that I still think has a chance of winning. I'm not going to go out here and tell you, oh yeah, bet on the Mayhem plus 8,000.
Yeah, somebody down in the Reddit comments sort of translated that into percentages, and so they said that puts Gladiators at like 9.1% or something. If that makes you, or if that helps you visualize it better, but yeah. So I was actually glancing over this list. That was actually a team I was definitely looking at. Yeah, LA Gladiators. They're on the 5th tier. If you wanted to go a little bit crazier, you could go for a team like Dallas Fuel. They're sitting at plus 2,500. Not that I expect that they're gonna run away with the season, but it's the same thing. That's a risk that you could reasonably take, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, honestly, I agree with you, Joe. That's who I was. That's another one I told my friends about. I was like, I like Dallas to be Like I'm not sure if they're gonna win or not, but I can see them being that surprise team that just makes a run and wins it all.
They,
Like I
they,
could
they,
see
they could
that.
be the long shot. Yeah.
Exactly. I could definitely see them out of any of these long shot teams at that level. I could definitely see them in that position out of anybody, especially with Jane and a great coaching staff behind it and how they looked at the end of this season as well last year. So, um, anybody else worth mentioning here? Boston, I think, is another interesting one because they're way at the bottom at plus 6,600. I know everyone does not like their new roster, but I think it's specifically interesting because I think they would be like at similar odds last year, and they ended up finishing with the second best record in the league. So I think that's just another interesting one. You see them obviously their roster does not look as good on paper right now, but they didn't look good on paper last year either. So that could be the long shot to take out of those like bottom four teams right there. Anything else interesting?
And if we've wet your whistle for power rankings, come back 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, exactly. If you guys really want to know our real power rankings here, we're just giving them who to bet on right now. But 2 weeks from now, 2 weeks. Speaking of previews and power rankings, we have been previewing season two team by team, week by week. So far, we've done almost every single team in this league except four teams, and those four teams are the Paris Eternal, Guangzhou Charge, and then the two teams we are going to be doing today, which is the Washington Justice and the Seoul Dynasty. We've done all the other teams. If you didn't get to listen to those episodes, go on back on your podcast app or something like that. We put the teams we're previewing in the description of the episode, so you can find the team you want to hear nice and easy. It's at the end of every episode. It's the last thing we do. All right. Anything? Oh, yes. For each team, we take a look, of course. We give them an off-season grade, so how they did in the off-season. Basically, the pickups, their roster, what changes they made. And then we take a look at, or we predict who we think their standout player, the MVP, is going to be. We give you our anticipated matchups and storylines, and then we finally compare what we think their results are going to be to season one. And if they're a new team, we just give you a little bit of a placement, not an exact power rankings, but where we think they would land about. Joe, let's start it off with the Washington Justice, a team that everyone is pretty iffy on, including the odds. They're at the very bottom, alongside Chengdu at plus 10,000. So they're a little bit of a rough team to look at, but what do you think of their offseason, their roster? What grade would you give this one? They only have 6 players?
They do have 8. Yeah, if we're looking at the same site, it just hasn't been updated.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I'm going to a different site.
missing from that list probably for you is Otto and Guido.
Yes. Okay.
But yeah, so again, looking at this, the roster they've got Janice, Corey, Stratus, Otto, Sansam, Phasix, Guido, and Hyonu. There for an 8-man roster. So actually lots of NA talent, to an extent, with Corey from Gladiators Legion. Stratus played for NRG. Phasix also played for NRG in the past. The only returning AL player they've got, obviously there is Janice on the tank role from New York Excelsior. But of course coming in with the other coach, Coach Wizard, is there now for Washington Justice, which is notable, coming from the New York Excelsior. But yeah, in general, this isn't a team that people are super excited about, which kind of makes sense. We've got some, or I guess Otto was also in Overwatch League. What am I saying?
Yeah. And Guido, yeah, Otto, Guido,
Yeah.
Janice.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so three. I feel like the Spanish Inquisition sketch all over again. The three returning Overwatch League players. But no, it's yeah. So I tend to agree though that this isn't a roster I'm super excited about. And I think part of that just has to do part of that just has to do with sort of the way that it was put together. I don't know. It's um, not lots of synergies coming in necessarily. Not lots of players that are really well known, which again is uh, outside of the contenders region they've been playing in maybe. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's um, I, I thought the actual roster announcement though was one of the best ones. If you remember the DC roster was announced in a series of tweets, and they had like comic book style art that
Oh
somebody had
yeah,
done,
yeah,
and they did like comics of all the players. That was kind of cool. But
yeah.
unfortunately, that was one
No
of the
doubt.
coolest things about their off season. For
Not a
my
good sign.
my personal um, opinion. So, yeah, if you give them an off-season grade, I mean, it's a team. It's a team that nobody, including me, is expecting to do very well. Unfortunately. Um, so
It's
yeah,
a team.
it's a team. Um, Wizard did got a team.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
There are
I don't know.
players.
Unfortunately, it's not going to have to be a very good grade. I'll give them a C minus or something.
Yeah.
I like to be nice with my grades.
Yeah. um, Washington Justice. Yeah. Whew, like you're saying, I mean, the only impressive thing are the three Overwatch League players here. I mean, Guido, he was okay. Otto, he was pretty good. Jonas was pretty good. But none of those three names, like, do I look at them and I'm like, oh my god, that those are fantastic pickups. And Janice isn't like someone I'm super excited that they started the roster out with. Um, but what trips me up are the three North American players on this team: Corey Stratus and Fozix, all from NRG, or is one of them from somewhere else?
Corey came from Gladiators Legion.
Yeah, yeah, Corey from Gladiators Legion, Stratus and Fozix from NRG. Um, I mean those teams and contenders were not even the most impressive NA contenders teams necessarily. So I think that's already a bad sign for most people because NA contenders is not even considered to have some of the best talent unless you're on Fusion University or XL2. Used to be on XL2. Um, but yeah, this the roster's not that impressive from the names. The two unknowns for me are Sansam and Hyonu, both of them from Korean contenders. Sansam met Athena, I believe, yes, and yeah, I mean, just overall on paper, this team does not seem impressive to me whatsoever. I know there are rumors that Justice is doing well in scrims. Um, Scrims aren't necessarily the best way to determine who's the best, especially because a lot of people hide strats during scrims and don't try their hardest during scrims on purpose or try new things in scrims so they can figure out their exact strategy.
Or they play Minecraft.
Or they play Minecraft in scrims. Washington beat NYXL in scrims by default because they were playing Minecraft. But yeah, apparently they're doing kind of good in scrims, but I don't take that. I still think they're not going to be that great. Kate Mitchell, the big rumors around Washington was Kate wasn't given enough money to sign good players, and they're gonna have to moneyball it. And it's funny because they had that whole segment on Wizard at the near the end of the season about how he wants to be like Moneyball, like Billy Bean in the Oakland Athletics. If you haven't seen that movie, but basically the Oakland Athletics is an MLB team that is not very rich, and in the MLB team, the richest teams win. But this guy came in, Billy Bean, and made the most made the best roster he could with very little money, just based off of players that would just these unknown players that nobody wanted because they were kind of weird or something like that. So maybe that's what they tried to do here, but I don't think it is. So I'm going to give him a D. I'm a little more harsher than you. Joe.
As I always say, prove us wrong.
Yeah,
That's
prove us wrong.
my challenge to the team.
I agree with you. I would love everyone to prove us wrong. I want no 0-28 team this year, please. I want everybody to have at least one win, which is what we could not say about last year. Standout players, MVP. Who's the MVP of Washington Justice this season, Joe, if they were to have one?
Um, I think probably gonna have to pick the easy one here, and say it's gonna have to be Janice coming up and using his um, super fancy New York Excelsior experience that he has um, to come in and pull this team together. Together with Coach Wizard, obviously, it's gonna be a big part of that too. But we're picking players, so it's gonna be
Yeah.
Janice for me.
All right. It makes sense. Janice will bring the Minecraft strats to the Washington Justice. I agree with that. But I'm gonna go. Hmm. Who am I gonna go with? Janice is a great pick, but I'm gonna go with Otto. I was pretty impressed with his DPS play last season. I'll go with him to maybe perhaps make the Washington Justice better than everybody thinks they will be. But I don't think they will be too good, so it's hard to give someone MVP on a team that is going to be okay. Anticipated matchups. This is a new team, so it is hard to pick rivalries already. But who are you looking forward to seeing Washington play?
Yeah, I mean, we always think about just interleague stuff. So teams like Seoul, obviously Guido coming from Seoul or New York. This is even with the coach battle. That'll be
Yeah,
sort of an interesting storyline at least for that match. But in terms of actually like significant matches, um, when Washington plays teams like Florida or Chengdu, is also going to be notable, I think. Um, Even just for the sake of because those may end up unfortunately, spoiler alert, might uh, end up determining some of the bottom of the league, but
yeah,
uh, in some ways that's just as exciting as the top.
yeah. In some ways, it is. Yeah, it's hard to anticipate too many matchups besides NYXL and Seoul, like you're saying. Maybe Shanghai for Auto, and I don't know. I'll go with like local Philadelphia, Boston, just anyone on the East Coast. Washington usually has a beef with. So, yeah, Philly, Boston, New York, probably going to be their main rivals throughout the season. Um, but yeah, I mean, hopefully this team does better than expected. So I do look forward to watching them play. I would love that. So they didn't have a season one, of course. So we just give a little range of where we think we're going to place. And Joe, do you think the audience members can even tell where we're going to rank them? We haven't been too transparent about this one.
I didn't know until very recently.
I mean,
Do you talk about Washington
if,
specifically? Yeah, no.
yeah, just
Yeah,
a bit
I
of
don't know. It's a
sarcasm.
it's a mystery here.
It's a little bit of a mystery where we're going to be ranking Washington. Honestly, we should just skip over it. Like, I feel like everybody knows. I feel like that'd be a power move if we just just passed.
Yeah. I mean, they'll find out soon enough.
They will find out. They'll find out soon enough, but I think they know where-ish we have them. Um, Soul Dynasty. That is
Apologies to the DC fans.
Soul Dynasty. We This is our last team from season one, Joe, that we get to preview. We've taken a long time. We're sorry, Soul fans, but we're finally here. Soul changed a lot up. They got one of the most sought out free agents in Fissure in the off season, of course. They got Marvel and Michelle from Lucky Future Zenith, which is a Chinese contenders team, not Korean contenders. They got Fitz from Element Mystic as well as Jexy from Element Mystic as well. Element Mystic, a team that a lot of people were fiending for those players from Element Mystic. They lost a lot of people though. They cut Miro, they cut Wakid, they cut Guido, and Gambler retired. They also traded Kuki to Los Angeles Valiant and Zephyr to Florida Mayhem. So lots of changes for Seoul Dynasty, and it made sense after a disappointing season. They were expected to be one of the best teams, didn't make playoffs. Joe, the question is, are these changes enough to get them into playoffs this year? What grade would you give their off season?
Yeah, so obviously, we talk about stuff on paper, and on paper, the biggest addition to this roster is got to be Fissure. Coming from LA Gladiators, looking for an all-Korean team. Well, he's found one here in Seoul. Coming and completely redoing their tank line if you don't count Jaehong, which I don't. Although I guess some of it is returning too. But completely redoing their tank line, staying with Fleta and Munchkin on the DPS line, which is that's pretty solid, especially Fleta is meta and all that. Um, and then Toby and Jexay and again coming in with Jae Hong as well for the support line. It's a decently solid roster. That's the loss of Miro I think was relatively big for them. Obviously they had other plans, other directions they wanted to go for that support line, but some of these other players made more sense definitely. I think they were a team, if I could do math quickly, that I guess they had 11 players at the end of season one, so they had a little bit of trimming to do, and definitely had things that they wanted to address. But it's a solid enough roster, I think. That we'll see where I put them once we get to that, but yeah, it's just a matter of whether some of the changes and the small upgrades that they had were enough to keep them maintained going into season two.
Yeah, I agree with you there. It's interesting to think to sort of think about how well Seoul's even going to do this year. Fissure, of course, is a really big pickup, but I think everyone agrees that Michelle, Marvel, Jexy Fitz, they're all good pickups. But I mean, I personally, I don't know how great they really are, or if they're just. It feels to me as if they're just sort of replacing their old players that they had with players of similar skill. In all honesty, I don't see too many upgrades besides Fissure at tank in the off season as far as pickups go. But they did keep. I think they kept a nice core with Fleta, Ryu Jae-young, of course, everyone's favorite player, all that stuff. I mean, they've got. I feel like they have the talent there, and I feel like maybe even Fissure is enough to push them over the edge. But you need a little bit more, especially with all this new talent coming into the league. All these new expansion teams coming into the league, you need a little bit more. I got to give their offseason about a B minus. Did you give him a grade, Joe?
I don't think so. No. But yeah. So yeah, I would grade him. Uh, yeah. It's. I've said this about several teams already, but they seem sort of confident, I guess, and confidence. It'll get you. It'll get you some kind of far, but it's hard to tell where. But yeah, I think a B or B minus is good.
Yeah.
For this team, and they'll have to earn higher than that.
Yes, they will. And they still have pressure on them. They are the only Korean team in this league. We thought maybe there'd be a second one. They've got some pressure on them from the Korean market here. They got they
That
got to live
is
up to the
the
hype.
only team from Korea.
Yes, yes. The only team located in Korea, Seoul. All right.
Yeah.
Of course, there are many Korean teams in this league. Standout players, MVP. I mean, last year, obviously, I think everyone agrees that Fleta was Seoul's MVP last year. Ryu Jae-hong, of course, was good, but I don't think he was as good. I don't think he was the caliber he was at before, where he was obviously the best player on this team. They added Fleta, a really good DPS player. Does he repeat for you this season, or does Fissure come in and become the MVP for Seoul? Who do you think's carrying this team in the end, Joe, if anyone, or is it a team effort?
I think with the Seoul that we're looking at, which had all those problems in season one and weird consistency things and weird roster choices that were made and all that, that I think particularly Fissure is going to have to find success, in order for this team to do well. That because with the team that was Seoul Dynasty in season one and the person that was Fissure in season one, now come together. I think there's gonna have to be some kind of harmony that needs to be reached here, because otherwise it's not going to go well. Unfortunately, that's what I'm predicting for this roster. But that I think if pieces do come together well, it's going to be okay. But yeah, I think a good portion of that is going to be on Fissure, I'd say.
I agree with you 100%. I really do believe he makes or breaks, and by breaks, I mean like get 13th or something. Like not that it's not going to be that bad if Fissure doesn't perform well, but if he does perform well, I do think Seoul could make playoffs. Do I think? But the question is, do I think they will? And my answer to it is I really don't. I don't. Fissure doesn't mold well. I have a super bad taste in my mouth from when this guy decided that one of the best teams in the league, the LA Gladiators, when it came to playoff time, he shouldn't help them win a championship, and that just leaves a super bad taste in my mouth. And just sort of his freak out on social media. It's still there. It's still lingering out of my mind, and I don't like it. And I think it's a bad sign already that he wasn't starting in that show match. I know it was just a show match, but it felt like kind of a bad sign to me. So if there's going to be MVP, I'm going to give it to Fleta again because that guy is nuts on DPS.
It's true.
Absolutely
It's true.
nuts. Okay. Anticipated matchups for Seoul Dynasty.
I mean, LA Gladiators.
Oh, of course.
But yeah, beyond that, if we think about, are we looking for former teammates? Are we looking for, whatever? I think, I forget what other team I said this about, but another team recently that I said probably my most exciting matchups for them are the ones whatever they have like in the first 2 weeks, because in some ways that's going to be more exciting, just to see the standard they set for themselves and the pace they set for themselves in the first couple weeks of the stage, than anything really.
Yeah. I completely agree with you on that one. Seoul, they play LA, then they play Dallas. Dallas was another one I was going to mention, of course, a classic rivalry. And then they play Chengdu, and then Boston, and then New York and Washington. So those are their first 6 games. I think New York, London, those were classic Korean roster rivalries from last season. So seeing Seoul versus New York and Seoul versus London again will be very interesting. But yeah, you make a good point there, Joe. I'm excited to just see this team play and see how they perform against, especially LA. I think that's a big test right away, LA. So that's going to be one of my favorite matches of week 1. Okay, and then compared to season one, Seoul Dynasty, they finished 8th overall in the standings at 22-18, which was the same record as the Houston Outlaws, but the Houston Outlaws had a tiebreaker, I believe, to take 7th. So they were just outside of playoffs. This time, if they do get 8th this time, they will be in playoffs. Well, they'll be in the wild card thing. Joe, do you think we'll just do it based off playoffs? Maybe. Do you think they'll do better, and by better I mean make playoffs, the same, just outside of playoffs, or worse?
It's 8th out of 12. If you translate that to a 20-person team, is like 13th or 14th, I think, or maybe 12th. But do they do better than that? I don't think. I don't think they're going to be a top 8 team. And I say this with at least a first draft of my 20-team power rankings already done. And so I'm trying just not to go off of that completely. But no, I don't think we're looking at a top 8 playoffs team. Without some good luck and some help for sure. But also they're definitely not bottom of the pack either. I'll put them somewhere in the to 12 to 14 range, so about proportionally where they might have finished season one. Honestly, is where leaving Seoul for the most part.
Yeah, Joe, I gotta agree with you there. About the same as exactly where I have them. I think they're just outside of playoff range. If anything, they just make that wild card play-in tournament, and they unfortunately can't make it to the playoffs. Is about where I have them. So, yeah, overall, I think Seoul, they made some changes, but I don't think the changes are quite good enough. All right, Joe, that's all we got for episode 23, right? Anything else? Any last second burning things you need to talk about, Joe?
I don't think so. None that we won't come up with on Tuesday, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, we already got our next episode here very soon. We're getting so much closer. 2 weeks left. Come back next week where we are going to preview Paris and Guangzhou, and then eventually give our power rankings in the final episode before the season. All right, social media. If you want to follow us on our personal Twitters, you can head on over to JWGeorgeIV is mine, or at Kirkpatrick_Inc. is Joe's. That's INC. We have a Twitter for our show. It's On the Flank Show. You can also email us ontheflankshow@gmail.com. Any topics you would like us to talk about, you can tweet at us or email us, and your topic might just make the show. You are listening to this in one way, but if you want to listen to it in another, you can go to ontheflank.podbean.com. You can go to my personal YouTube, which is John George, or you can find it on my Twitter page. You can go to iTunes or Apple Podcasts if you're an iPhone guy. If you're a Spotify guy or girl. If you're an Android user, we're on Spotify or Google Play.
Or if you're just an Android.
Or if you are an Android, of course. If you're an Omnic, we are on Spotify and Google Play. Thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you guys next week.